I have never driven a Holy Trinity car, but today that changes. I'm up in the Cairngorms and I've been throwing the keys to a Mercedes SLR McLaren. As a Top Gear kid, like a lot of you guys, I feel like I have one assignment today. We all watched Clarkson and Hammond's review of this car when it first came out. Question is, 20 years on, were they right about this car? I guess let's start with what this specific car is. It belongs to Graeme, a friend of mine who is an oil and property businessman. He's very successful in GT racing and he also owns a McLaren P1. I like the level of allegiance to the British side of both Holy Trinities. Graeme is now the director of Auto Lounge, a supercar buying and selling business up here in the northeast of Scotland, where he has some serious kit floating about. Graeme, you have one hell of a car collection. How did you end up with that SLR?
Well, the SLR found me. We were asked to sell it by a friend. Slowly over time, sort of fell in love with it. The more I researched and read about it, and I've got a big kind of fascination with McLaren and having raced them and owned a couple. I thought it interesting that this was a Gordon Murray car, but built by McLaren. So
if you had, say, 4 minutes, the nuclear sirens are going off, and you've got McLaren P1, McLaren SLR sitting nose to nose, which one are you grabbing the keys to?
That's a tricky question, because I think the P1 is probably the best car I've ever driven, but you kind of need a racetrack to get the full experience of that. So I think for the road, it would have to be the SLR, probably driving from Braemar up to the Glenshee Ski Centre to get a good view. That's
pretty much what we're going to go about doing today. Can I take it for a spin?
Yes, certainly.
I've gathered a few points that Richard and Jeremy made back in the day to see if they check out 20 years on. Starting with the fact that the brakes ruin it. Jeremy said in his review that the brakes felt like he was mountaineering in a pair of Wellingtons and that they felt really distant and remote. Straight off the bat, he's 100% correct. But if you pick away at what they actually are, there's kind of an excuse for how they feel. The SLR had very early versions of two things. One, full ceramic brakes, and two, brake-by-wire. That means the brake pedal is essentially electronic, and then that's transmitted through to the hydraulics to then trigger the brakes. Loads of cars have that nowadays, and you would not be able to tell the difference, but because that was quite cutting-edge tech back in 2005, 2006, it doesn't quite feel right. The brakes don't feel as intuitive as they should, and when you combine it with the fact that they're carbon ceramics, and therefore there isn't much feel when they're cold, when I first pulled away in this car, it genuinely felt a bit sketchy trying to slow down for things. When you want to anchor on, my God, do they anchor on? And that's actually the first time I've triggered the air brake. So cool, kind of Veyron-esque at the back there, just before the Veyron actually. So right off the bat, yep, they got that one correct. The brakes are probably the thing that ages this car the most. Not in terms of sheer performance, but their drivability. It's not quite there. The suspension is way too hard. Now, Jeremy and Richard actually talk about suspension modes in this car, but as far as I can see, and as far as the owner Graeme is concerned, there aren't actually suspension settings. I think the lads were getting them mixed up with this dial here, which is all to do with the gearbox. It's comfort, manual, and sport. I get that seeing comfort and sport makes you think suspension, but no, they are to do with the gearbox, which we'll get to in a bit. That means the suspension is the suspension. And although this old military road is an absolute stunner, and for Scotland, the surface is pretty good, it's still a little bit lumpy and bumpy, and it does transmit through the car. If you were to compare it to a more modern GT car, say an Aston equivalent or a Bentley, those would soak up the bumps a lot better. Mercedes made this thing to be the ultimate cross-country car, and on nice, smooth European motorways, it would be lovely. Up here, if you were to do a Scottish Highlands road trip, I think it would get quite tiring. There is quite a lot of crashiness coming through the car. Nothing major, nothing like a full-on sports car, but enough that it would tire you out after a decent long 200, 300 mile drive. Apparently though, there is a McLaren Special Operations upgrade to the suspension that makes it handle better, but also be a bit softer sprung and soak up those bumps. So I'd recommend getting that if you own an SLR. Yes, the interior is very plasticky, but at least it looks different to an SL of the time. There are some buttons that are the same, but at least they've decided to cover it up. Could it have been brushed aluminium? Yes. Am I offended by how plasticky it is? No, not really. And really, can you have a go at this car's interior when it includes this? I think I could cope with the plastic. We pride ourselves on how our videos are shot and then how they then look on your screen. So having a channel partner like Insta360 means that we have the tools to shoot our videos exactly the way we like to shoot them. And today, the star of the show is their X5 360 camera. The X5 films in 8K, which means you guys are seeing the Scottish Highlands and this SLR in the exact same way that we are seeing it in real life. Advanced AI noise reduction and dynamic range optimization deliver clear, vivid footage no matter the situation. Add in a new sound guard that blocks out wind noise so we can capture really good exhaust sound, and a 185-minute battery life, and we have an incredibly versatile little camera that we use on virtually every single DRIVETRIBE shoot. The hardened lens comes in handy too, but even if you do drop it off a car and smash it, it's fully replaceable and ready to go in a jiffy. The X5 is available now, so click the link in the description below and get your own to make content just like us. Then there's the really contentious one. Richard said, it feels just like a big, fast Merc. Yes, it's got a Mercedes badge on the bonnet, but it is ballistic. Fast does not cover it. I don't have the context of a 55 or 65 SL or CL, I'll admit that, but there's no way that either of those cars goes down the road anything like this SLR. Oh, there goes the air brake, that is so cool. The air brake completely fills the rear window when it goes up. I'm sorry, Richard, there's no way this feels like just a slightly faster, slightly beefier AMG product. The engineering going on under the skin of this thing is amazing. So let's pull over, peel the skin back. Let me show you just how much cutting edge tech there is in this, what is essentially a big GT car. Richard went as far to say he wished this was a bit less Merc and a bit more McLaren. But when you peel the skin off this thing, the level of engineering is cutting edge for the time. When Gordon Murray looked at this project, one thing he wanted to do was lengthen the wheelbase so that he could get the engine as far back as possible. So the wheelbase grew by 60 centimeters so that the engine could sit almost a meter further back than any normal Mercedes performance car. This isn't just front mid-engine, that normally just means that it's past the axle line. This engine is sitting proud of the front wheels entirely. It's so far back. That means you need a pretty trick powertrain integration. And something I didn't know coming into this video was that the intake of an SLR is the front badge. A huge Merc badge on the front is the air intake. It comes in through here, your air filter comes to about here, and then it channels all the way to the supercharger. That then boosts air either side into these two charge coolers. That is a big upgrade versus a SL55, CL55 V8. That's where you get your power from. One for either bank, that's where you get your 620 horsepower. Something else I didn't realise, and I think was super underreported back in the day, was that an SLR is 95% carbon composite. The only metallic parts on it are these two struts either side. They're kind of safety crash bars, and they also form the cradle for the engine. They're made of cast aluminium. The rest of the car is carbon composite. You can see it here, this entire engine bay here, carbon composite. If you were to peel away the carpet in the interior, that would all be a carbon cockpit. If you peeled away the carpet in the boot, it would be carbon. The bonnet is carbon. Richard wished this car was a bit more McLaren. I think Gordon Murray went to town on this thing. Get this date in your diary, folks, August the 30th, 2025, DRIVETRIBE live at Bicester Heritage. If you want to meet Richard and the rest of the DRIVETRIBE team, get your tickets through the link in the description below. It is absolutely ballistic. It's quite tough on this road to give it the full beans, but those moments when you do, it's brutal. It's got this thunderous rasp to it. Thank God this thing's got the brakes to match. And I figured out how to use them now. Because it's carbon ceramics, race car brakes, you just treat them like you would a race car. A nice big initial hit, and then you work it out from there. If I'm honest, when I'm in a car like this, I normally like to use the paddles. I like to have that slight manual feeling going on. Honestly, I've never thought once coming into a corner I could do with a downshift. It just completely sorts it out. Who needs a V10 or a V12 when you've got a supercharger? Do you know what? It feels more than 626 horsepower. It turned out that the SLR wasn't the only 2006 supercar I'd drive that day.
Do you want to have a shot of the Ford?
Today's a very good day, but don't get distracted. Back to the SLR, put this thing away. Give it back to Graeme. Oh, tell you what, the brakes are better than this. Just saying. Got a straight bit of road here, no traffic. Let's launch an SLR. Whew. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Oh! Oh! Listen to that! Oh! Jesus. That felt just as, if not more brutal than the Veyron I drove a few months ago. Because that's got all-wheel drive, yeah, it squats down and goes. With this thing being rear, that was something special. I don't think a car has ever made me cry from the way it drives and the feeling it gives me. But bloody hell, I'm close. What a thing, but the hair is standing up all over my body right now. Gordon Murray, you're the man. I've not got too much more time in this car up on this beautiful Highland road, so I better start coming up with some conclusions. Stepping back as the Top Gear kid and thinking, right, what was that holy trinity? Enzo, Carrera GT, SLR. The SLR is always the one that gets bullied a bit in that comparison. The Enzo and Carrera GT, well, an Enzo is 4 million quid now. Carrera GT, 1.5, 2 mil. You can get an SLR for 300 grand. It's actually very similar to the McLaren F1, F40 and XJ220 comparison that sometimes happens. This is kind of the XJ220. It's the one that seems weirdly disappointing when you read the reviews from back in the day. But Jeremy made a very interesting point at the end of his initial review. He said that he actually preferred this car to the McLaren F1. He said that this was more accessible, more comfortable, more drivable than an F1. And I haven't driven one of those, but I'm almost certain that he's 100% bob on with that. Realistically, you're not going to drive down to Milan in an Enzo or a Carrera GT or a McLaren F1. You could absolutely do it in this. Does it have a motorsport derived engine? No, it doesn't, but of course it doesn't. If it did, it would be something completely different. Gordon Murray and his team took a Mercedes GT car and turned it into something incredibly special. I think they absolutely nailed it. Calling this the runt of the Holy Trinity back in the day is like saying that Samwise Gamgee is the runt of the Fellowship. None of them are any better than the other. They're just good at doing very, very different things. If the Enzo is Gandalf and the Carrera GT is Aragorn, you cannot compare Sam to them, but by God did he pull through in the end. Absolute legend. If it weren't for him, the ring would never have been destroyed. Frodo would have up. So there's my conclusion. The Mercedes SLR McLaren is the Samwise Gamgee of the supercar, hypercar world. Have some of that.